Today, if I ask you one question, what is your biggest goal? And then if I ask you again, how honestly are you fighting for that goal every single day? Most people go silent because the truth is we all have very big dreams, but the hard work those dreams require, we keep postponing for tomorrow. Imagine if one day your life suddenly comes to a stop, an accident, a problem, a failure, and you're told what you're thinking of right now may never be possible. What would you do then? Would you give up? Or would you fight your fate? Today, the world remembers those who achieve success in perfect conditions, but history salutes those who refuse to give up, even in broken conditions. And today's story is not just about survival, it is a story about keeping your goals alive when the whole world has already declared them dead. Remember, the size of the problem doesn't matter, the level of your fight does. The struggle you are facing today might be the very struggle that becomes your identity tomorrow. So don't watch this video like just another story. Watch this video as a reminder that if one person with a broken spine can take his life back, then you cannot make even a single excuse for your goals. Today's story begins with a young man whose dreams were left behind on a hospital bed. That man's name was Bear Grylls. In 1996, Bear Grylls was at an altitude of 16,000 feet. In front of him, at the plane's door, the red light was on. Suddenly, the light turned green. A man opened the plane's door and shouted loudly, "Go, go, go!" One by one, all of Bear's friends jumped down. Bear was under a lot of stress, and his legs were getting cramps. But still, Bear looked down, took a deep breath, and in the end, he also jumped down with his parachute. In 1996, Bear was on vacation in Africa with his army friends, and they had come to Zimbabwe for skydiving. Everything was going according to plan, but then a major tragedy happened to Bear. As soon as he jumped from the plane, Bear fell downward at a speed of 200 kilometers per hour. 15,000 feet, 10,000 feet, 5,000 feet. Within just a few seconds, Bear was only 3,000 feet above the ground. And finally, he opened his parachute. Even after opening the parachute, Bear's speed did not decrease, and he kept falling rapidly. Bear thought to himself, "Why isn't my falling speed reducing? This is very strange." Then Bear looked up at his parachute, and what he saw there caused him to completely panic. Bear's parachute did not open properly in the air, and its lines were completely tangled, because of which Bear's speed was not decreasing, and he was falling rapidly. Bear tried to straighten the parachute, but he failed. The ground below was now clearly visible to him, and within a few seconds, Bear was going to crash. Bear became even more scared. He was very close to the ground. He tried to open his reserve parachute, but by then, it was already too late. From a height of 16,000 feet, Bear crashed straight into the ground. His speed was so high that he bounced off the ground like a rag doll and fell far away. A cloud of dust formed all around him. Bear landed directly on his back. Impact was so violent that it felt as if someone had driven a stone into his spine. Bear tried to stand up, but the pain was so intense that he couldn't even move properly on the ground. Bear was crying and screaming in pain, but all around him there was nothing but desert. After a few hours, Bear's friends arrived. He was placed into a car and taken to a nearby hospital. Bear says that his pain had increased so much that he was writhing in agony and repeatedly losing consciousness. When the doctor gave him an injection at the hospital, only then did the pain start to ease. The next time Bear regained consciousness, he was on an airport runway. He was lying on a stretcher and was being sent back to the UK by flight. Bear was completely alone, and during the flight, he kept crying and blaming himself again and again, saying to himself, "Look at what you've done. You've made a huge mistake. Everything is over." As soon as he reached back, Bear was admitted to the hospital, where x-rays were taken. The doctors came to him and said, "Bear, 3 main bones in your spine, T10, T11, and T12, are broken." Bear asked the doctors, "But I'll be okay, right? Will I be able to walk again?" "Please tell me." The doctors did not give any answer. They told Bear, "Look, right now we can't say anything. It's not possible to do surgery at the moment. Best option is to wait and let you recover." Bear narrowly escaped being paralyzed. To support Bear's back, a large metal brace was fitted. The pain was so severe that even moving 1 inch on the bed was difficult for Bear. Even 60 days after the accident, Bear was still lying on the bed in the same condition. Bear kept replaying that scene in his mind again and again and kept blaming himself. This is the story of rising again after falling and breaking apart, of looking fear straight in the eye, and of that stubborn determination that takes a person from impossible to possible. 90 days after the accident, Bear returned home from the hospital, but his condition remained the same. Lying in bed, his mind was filled with nothing but questions. Would I ever walk again? Would I be able to join the army again? Just then, his eyes fell on a picture of Mount Everest hanging on the wall. That very Everest, climbing which had been the biggest dream of Bear and his father. But at that moment, the situation was such that climbing Everest felt far away. Even standing on his own feet seemed impossible for Bear. Yet, in that very moment, Bear did something no one expected. Despite having a metal brace on his back, groaning in pain, he got up from the bed, stumbled his way to the picture, took it down from the wall, and said to himself, "No matter what happens, I will not only walk again, but one day I will also climb Mount Everest." This dream was almost impossible. The British Army had sent many missions to Everest, very few of which had succeeded, and even those who did succeed had returned after coming face to face with death. Still, Bear refused to give up. After 8 months and several more weeks of bed rest, Bear slowly began to recover. But fate struck him with another blow. When he returned to his army regiment, the doctors clearly told him that he could no longer do parachute jumps or lift heavy weights, or his spine could be damaged again. Bear understood that in this condition, staying in the army was not possible. With a heavy heart, he resigned. Now he had no job, no income, and climbing Everest would require millions of rupees. Bear stood before two choices: either conquer Everest and make history, or spend his entire life being called a failure. He wrote hundreds of letters asking for sponsorship and was rejected everywhere. He wrote 23 times to Sir Richard Branson, the owner of the Virgin Group, but received no reply. Still, Bear did not stop. On a cold night, he went all the way to Branson's house himself, was scolded, yet did not give up. When nothing came from there either, one day, while riding his bicycle on the road, he noticed a company. Without thinking, he went inside, insisted on meeting the CEO, and honestly placed his dream before him. This time, fate stood by him. He received the sponsorship. In 1998, Bear reached the Everest Base Camp with his team. The weather was dangerous, and the death statistics were terrifying. On the very first climb, Bear fell into a deep, icy crevasse. A thin rope saved his life. Below him was only darkness. Above him was hope. With the help of his teammates, he somehow managed to get out. This was the second time he had returned from the edge of death. Despite the fear, pain, and shattered confidence, Bear said to himself, "Fear always comes on the path to big goals." Illness, storms, and lack of time, everything was against him. Still, Bear prayed, stayed patient, and began the climb in the final window of opportunity. In the death zone, with dangerously low oxygen, bodies lying all around, and every step bringing him closer to death, Bear did not stop. After 17 hours of continuous climbing, despite the accident that had happened 18 months earlier, at the age of 23, Bear Grylls conquered Mount Everest. This was not just a summit. It was the victory of a man who left pain, fear, and circumstances behind, and proved that if the determination is strong, even the impossible can become possible. From that day on, Bear Grylls became a symbol of courage, inspiring everyone to rise again, no matter the odds. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe.